What is going on, guys? This is the second episode of the NEW podcast. The first episode was about The Undertaker, and I'm sure a lot of y'all enjoyed that. And this episode, we were talking about one of the most popular, I guess I could say. You hear his name a lot in the WWE crowd nowadays. People are obsessed with this guy. A lot of people are. And people just love mentioning him, looking up anything about him. So this is perfect for the podcast. But Tears, who are we doing today?
A certain individual by the name of Phil Brooks, but to most people, he's known as CM Punk.
AKA Chick Magnet Punk, which you revealed the other day. But let's get off to it. CM Punk, a guy who's had a very controversial ending to his WWE career at the 2014 Royal Rumble. Kane ended up coming out and eliminating him. Now it turns out, as a lot of people know, the Punk trial is going on and everything like that. But he suffered a concussion in that match. Apparently he said Kofi clotheslined him. He was dizzy, couldn't see. He was just out of it. He didn't want to be eliminated. So, Tears, do you think it was the right call for WWE to just have Punk eliminated in that match?
I mean, yes, but it also has to do with the fact that he did have the staph infection. He didn't even want to do the match, I believe. I'm not 100% sure. But I think it's more of the fact like you can physically tell that there was stuff wrong with both the staph infection and the concussion, because during the entire match he was just looking like he was in pain. I don't know if any people saw it, but I noticed it. The fact that they probably didn't tell him he was getting eliminated like that. I mean, true, he didn't want to get eliminated, but I think a forewarning more than just bye will be needed.
Now, he did a podcast with Cole Cabana about a week after he left WWE. People said he was fired on his wedding day. I don't believe that, considering he quit. Apparently there's many stories behind it. The only people who know what really happened are Vince, Triple H, and Punk. But he said a lot of stuff about a WWE doctor, and they're currently in trial over it right now. Apparently Punk said he described him antibiotics, didn't write it down. That's not smart to do. And he said he had severe pain in his ribs, he had severe headaches, he was vomiting, he was doing all this stuff. Who do you think wins this, Punk or the WWE doctor?
Here's the thing, like, there's more things to go for Punk in the legal trial, because here's the thing, WWE doctors have always had issues in the past, and when those issues mean is like, I'm gonna speak my opinion. A lot of people, mostly WWE super tryhards or people who like to be on their side more than anything, are gonna not say this, but I don't believe the WWE doctors are really reliable. I feel like there's more chance of Punk winning the trial due to the fact like you have way more evidence for Punk than WWE, because WWE has a history of shady doctors and stuff in the past.
Yeah, I can definitely agree with that. Vince is a very sneaky individual when it comes to stuff like that. Now, Punk faced Undertaker at WrestleMania. He lost, obviously. But there were rumors going around that Punk asked WWE if he could beat Punk, or not beat Punk, but beat Taker's streak by a count out. He could be the ultra heel. Do you think that would have been the right call if they would have done that to get him more heat, or do you think it just would have been something that pisses the fans off, since a lot of fans take the streak very delicately, or anything like that?
Oh, it would have definitely pissed off the fans. Like, if Punk was going for being heel heat, then it would have worked, but it would not have worked for the right reasons, in my opinion. It would have just, like, completely ruined everybody. It would have not made any sense. It would have honestly been on a list, seen it like 5 years in the future. People would have been like, this was the dumb, that would have been like one of the most dumb things WWE could have done. So I'm glad the streak did not end like that. However, I will say it would not have been a terrible idea if Punk wanted to get heat.
What would you grade that match out of 1 to 5 stars? Undertaker against Punk. A lot of people said it was a very good match. What would you grade it?
If we're doing a 1 out of 5 on my ratings, I would say it was a 4.6. I think that's pretty fair. Like, it was a really good match. It could have been better, but you have to think Undertaker's age probably affected here and there. How Punk with that staph infection, like, probably hindered it more. I think the match could have been better if it was prescribed better too, and if we had more of a chance. Because the fact that it was the top 3 matches, and considering it's Undertaker, not the top match, I think that kind of hindered it more. So yeah, 4.6 for me.
It's a pretty good rating from you. But Punk has been in some tag teams. He is really good friends with Kofi Kingston. Did you enjoy the Kofi and Punk tag team?
They did win the World Tag Team titles back then, when like the World Championship or the World Tag Team titles were like, if anybody remembers the Red Globe titles, which I thought was a very interesting choice. I did enjoy those titles. That tag team, it was interesting, but I think of it more of just like a stellar tag team for people to use. Like, eventually another tag team would come up and win, but in the meantime that tag team's just there. So it was fun, it was a cool idea, but at the same time it was just, you knew it wasn't going to go anywhere.
Yeah, it wasn't really a tag team that made much of an impact as most tag teams. But Punk ended up quitting in 2014. It's been 4 years. Do you think he will not necessarily return to WWE, but return to pro wrestling if he loses his next fight next month? Do you think he... Because Booker T did say in an interview, I don't know if a lot of you heard this, but he said he thinks Punk misses pro wrestling. If he loses the next fight, he'll be at the All In event. Do you think Booker T is right about saying that?
I will say chances are there, but I don't think they're as strong as Booker's applying they are, because he could miss wrestling, but I don't think he's been gone long enough for him to, okay, if my next fight doesn't work, I will go to the All In event. He might make an appearance, but to wrestle, I strongly do not believe he's going to wrestle at the All In event. Because you also got to think, knowing how Punk is, you probably want to get some training in to actually not have any ring rust before he actually does a match again. So my answer is he will not be wrestling at the All In event if he loses his next fight.
Okay. Well, speaking of his next fight, Punk did lose his first fight. If he loses his next one, would you count his UFC career as a failure? Would you give him credit for at least trying it? Would you be one of them fans who just shit on him because he just lost? Like, what would your opinion on that?
I mean, like, yeah, it's not been that great so far, but like most people say, even the very controversial Conor McGregor says, at least he, in his words, not mine, I might be getting these words wrong though, so don't quote me on this, at least he has the balls to come up and fight. So if his UFC career is a success, that's a strong debate, but like I said, and other people said, at least he's actually attempted it, you can say.
Yeah, not a lot of people in WWE would probably do UFC. I know Dean Ambrose said he'd do it, stuff like that, but I give Punk credit. I mean, at least he's trying, at least. Now, next thing, when Punk quit, he mentioned that he's glad Daniel Bryan took his spot. As people know, it was supposed to be Punk against Triple H at WrestleMania. There were a lot of arguments going on backstage. Punk said he wanted to be in the main event of WrestleMania. He thought it was bullshit that The Rock, as a part-timer, was in the main event. Do you think Punk had a point by saying that? Do you think part-timers, if they're a big enough draw, should be in the main event? Like, what is your opinion on that?
I mean, I could definitely understand where Punk goes to there, because in my mindset, it's like, it's good to have people like Brock Lesnar, Undertaker, Rock pop up, but here's the thing, they do not need the title to book anything, because the reason The Rock won that title from Punk at Elimination Chamber was to build up John Cena for The Rock against The Rock for the title, which John Cena won that, but you did not need that at all. The fact that people like The Rock can come up, win a title, because look at Goldberg and Brock Lesnar, they held the Universal title, and they do not need that title. So the fact that part-timers are coming in, beating people like, say, Punk, Bryan, Owens, AJ Styles, where they're there every week, and they need to have credibility. And these part-timers who haven't probably done a match in, say, a year, 2, 3, a couple, and they just win a title, it kind of just ruins their credibility to the point to where you just feel sorry for them and all that. So I can understand Punk there.
Okay. A lot of people will say Punk's best match is him against John Cena at Money in the Bank 2011. Would you agree with that?
His best WWE match, but you also gotta think these are probably the same people. I mean, like, there could be people who have seen these matches, but in my opinion, it have to be him and Joe's trilogy. You can choose whichever 3 matches they've had with each other, but if you're looking at a pure wrestling style, it would have to be, in my opinion, Joe and Punk, the first time they've competed against each other in ROH.
I'll have to check that match out, but if you had to pick one person in WWE right now for Punk to face, who's never faced him, who would it be?
Never faced him, like, in the world.
Yeah,
Like,
never faced
so
Punk at all. If he came back, this would be the person you'd love to see him face.
Now here's the thing that I need to address our viewers. Like, I watch a lot of wrestling around the world. I like to see, like, what varieties there are, to the point where whenever Icon tells me somebody who's coming up, I let him know that, you know, this person's gonna be, like, definitely good to watch. I've done that with Owens, or Steen at the time, Tommy Yen. I've done that a couple of times, but I would have to say the person that I believe he has not wrestled. I am not 100% sure about this, but it would have to be Almas. I know people would probably think I would say Black, but I feel like that one's too, like, that much there, to the point where their styles are good, but I feel like something would be missing there. Whereas Almas and Punk would be, they would have great technician styles against each other. Their strikes would be clean, crisp. So I would have to say Almas for that one.
That'd be a very interesting match if it happened. I'd love to see that match. Now, people always talk about Punk, and people have said AJ Lee would never come back to WWE because of Punk. Do you really see a reason for her to come back? Do you think the fans would just chant CM Punk at her the whole entire time? Meltzer has said he thinks AJ Lee's done, she's never coming back. What is your opinion on all of it?
I would like AJ Lee to come back. In my opinion, I don't believe, like, her not coming back doesn't have anything to do with Punk, because if she doesn't want to come back, she doesn't want to come back. So there's that. However, I will say, like, I believe the fans would keep chanting CM Punk, and that would kind of ruin her comeback. The only reason I would see her coming back, though, would probably if, like, say, we have a dominant women's champion. You could choose Asuka, you could choose Charlotte, you could choose pretty much anybody, as long as they're believably dominant, to the point to where WWE needs to bring somebody back to have a more credible feud. So I would say if AJ Lee does come back, it would be like for possibly a feud, if anything.
Yeah, there could be a lot of good women for her to face.
Especially nowadays, like since women wrestling has evolved to the point to where she wanted it to be, whereas back then it was very let's just say questionable for right now.
Yeah,
We'll do
more
a
about the
topic on that.
looks and stuff like that, but we'll talk about that in another podcast.
That
Back
should be
to
a fun one.
Punk. He has had a very, in my opinion, successful career. For all the people that try to say WWE didn't treat him right, I just strongly disagree with it. I think they treated him very well. Do you think he had a successful WWE career?
Most definitely, because so he may have not had the WrestleMania main event that he wanted, but he's also had this. He's had memorable WrestleMania or Royal Rumble moments, incredible WrestleMania matches, two-time Money in the Bank holder, the first ever back-to-back, or I guess now you can add Carmella to that, technically, in my opinion. I don't know if that's credible yet. He's a former ECW World Champion, former World Tag Team Champion, former Intercontinental Champion, a three-time World Heavyweight Champion, and a two-time WWE Champion. If you ask me, that's pretty successful. I mean, like, some people will say titles don't matter, but here's the thing. If you have enough when, like, if you are memorable for a reign, then that's pretty memorable, that good to me, because his WWE title reign, his second one, not the first one, there's a difference, people, was probably the best WWE Championship reign since... I couldn't even tell you, really. Like, it would have to be, like, from the Attitude Era, like, who's had as good of a reign as Punk, because people would say AJ Styles has been a good reign, but in my opinion, his still hasn't been as great as Punk's.
Yeah, AJ's title reign's been very interesting, but yeah, Punk was the longest reigning WWE champ of the last, I think, 20 years, somewhere around that. So he did have a successful title reign. Brock will be beating it very soon. I'm not even gonna get started on that because just but yeah, people who say Punk hasn't had a successful career, I feel like they're just still butthurt about him and WWE's bad blood, and they just don't want to admit WWE treated him well, and they're just pretty much just kissing Punk's ass and agreeing with everything he says in videos. But in my opinion, his best feud is with Jeff Hardy. I love that feud. That feud was perfect. It was money. It was opposite. It was two different lifestyles coming to life in a feud. Do you think that was Punk's best feud?
That would have to be. I think it's funny you asked me that, even though I have said this a bunch of times. That's probably one of my top favorite feuds of WWE history, because of how real, I guess you could say, that storyline felt. Like, that storyline was what got me to really see Punk as a wrestler compared to other times, because something about that feud, here's something about people need to know. I am not a big Jeff Hardy fan, if at all, but so I would have to say that feud was definitely a one-sided favoritism for me, but even though I didn't like Hardy, I loved their matches against each other. So yeah, that feud was by far Punk's best feud, and still, in my opinion, the best feud WWE's had.
No, I could completely agree with that. For y'all who haven't watched any of the matches, watch the Steel Cage match from SmackDown 2009, which was Jeff Hardy's farewell match, which ended the feud. They faced off in a ladder match for the world title and multiple matches for the world title. I think the ladder match was at SummerSlam 2000.
2008, and it was a TLC match.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so if y'all ever want to check that out, I suggest you do. That match was incredible. And a lot of people don't give that feud enough credit, I feel like. WWE should acknowledge that feud more, but they don't acknowledge anything from the past. They just acknowledge Reigns' accomplishments and Brock, so I can't even get into that. But yeah, that feud was really good. Now, for the trial right now, Punk and the Doctor, it should be wrapped up about next week. I think AJ Lee testified. Kane was there. It's a pretty big deal. I mean, a lot of people think it's a joke. It's actually a pretty big deal going on. For all you Punk fans, you should already know. But they've exchanged a lot of bad blood in court. There's been laughter from Punk. He's had been told to be quiet a couple times. I've heard it enough, but he's cried in court. So yeah, it's a pretty big deal. Do you think Punk and WWE will ever make amends? I mean, WWE has made amends with people like Bret Hart, Ultimate Warrior, and stuff like that. So do you think that would ever happen between the two sides?
I honestly don't necessarily know about that, because I'm not going to say it's impossible, but there is a chance that we might be having a Randy Savage moment here, to where the only time WWE will truly acknowledge Punk, because they only do like shots here and there for his acknowledgement, the only time, it's going to be really bad to say, but people can't say this is a possibility, the only time Punk will be noticed is when he's dead. But I could be wrong. I could be completely wrong here, and then we'll eventually see Punk in the WWE.
Well, hopefully that day comes. But that'll do it for this podcast. Hopefully y'all enjoyed it. CM Punk, episode 2. Next week there will be a new episode. Not going to reveal who that is, but thank you guys for watching, and hopefully you enjoy it.